ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dale Beaumont. Dale, welcome to the show. Welcome to Become Your Own Superhero.
Yeah, I love the title, and I hope I can deliver up to that promise.
Well, it's really interesting, Dale. I had a guest on recently who felt really uncomfortable with the title of superhero. And I was explaining that the whole concept around the show is really to inspire people to take their life into their own hands. And something that I learned very late in my life, in my late 30s, that the world wasn't going to hand things to me on a platter and that I actually had to work for them. And having known you for a year or so now, I've had the privilege and the opportunity to see a lot of the work that you've done. And you're a self-made man, described as an award-winning tech entrepreneur, business growth expert, author of, I think, 16 best-selling books. And you're also a very, very accomplished professional speaker as well. What have I missed?
What have I missed? Yeah, so in terms of other highlights, I used to be a gymnast. That was my kind of background, and I represented Australia in the sport of competitive aerobics for 3 years. Then I got married when I was 23, and I have 2 boys, one that is almost 13 and one that's 10. And then we love to travel. So I've been to 85 countries around the world now, and have built a couple of pretty sizable businesses, very decent property portfolio. And I just love, my passion is helping people to build the business of their dreams. And I do that through a program that I have called Business Blueprint that I've run for more than a decade now. And I work with business owners and entrepreneurs across Australia and New Zealand to help them to transform the way that they run their companies, make more money, have more time, and to basically live their dreams.
Well, I've recently sat in on a free webinar that you gave for the 52 Ways. And
do you enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it. Like the thing I feel, Dale, when I watched it and I sat in there, I was like overwhelmed, like in a good way, because I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to keep up with all of this stuff, right? And this is really for anyone that's thinking about going into business, runs their own business. I think even an employee of a major business would benefit from a lot of this stuff. Who is the target audience for this stuff?
Yeah, so it's really all small business owners that are really wanting to learn how to run a highly successful business, a business that makes hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in profits every single year, but to do it in such a way that you can keep your marriage and have a good relationship with your kids and be able to have the time to enjoy, the fruits of your labor and the business that you have built. Because there's a lot of people in corporate world and also in business as well that work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and they end up sacrificing all the other things that are important to them, including their health as well. And it's just like they've built this, business, but business is supposed to give you, it's basically a vehicle for you to create the life of your dreams and to give you more time and opportunities. But sadly, for a lot of people, it consumes them and ultimately it destroys them. And so I love helping people that want to grow, and the people that are committed to learning all the stuff that it's taken me 20 years and millions of dollars that I've invested to learn all of this stuff. And now I teach it to others through a 12-month program that I have called Business Blueprint. And it's like a modern MBA. So I teach all the stuff you need to know to be successful in business, and do so with the right way, with the right, keeping your integrity intact and making sure that you live your life on the way through. And it's part of it's about doing certain things, but it's also about the right mindset as well, and making sure that you are working smarter, not harder as well, through a whole bunch of things that I teach. So we've had some amazing success with our clients over the years and helped thousands of people to achieve all sorts of amazing things. And so, yeah, that's really what we're all about.
This might be a tough one to answer, Dale, but what are some of the fundamentals that people need to have in order to be on the right path from a business point of view?
Yeah. So, okay. So fundamentals. So obviously mindset is a part of it, and we won't, we're happy to unpack that if you like in more detail. But having the right mindset is key to any kind of like field of endeavor, and certainly business as well. Then it's all about how do you generate leads in your business. And so, I assume that most people would already have, most of my clients already have a product or a service of some kind. If you don't, then that's a whole other conversation about how do you actually find a good product or service, create a good service, and how do you actually ensure that there's actually product market fit and there's demand for what it is that you are selling. The worst mistake you can ever make in business is building something that no one wants or no one's kind of willing to pay for. And so, that's all about, ideation and product development, which is a whole other conversation. But then it's all around marketing. How do people even know that you exist? And then how do you capture that interest and awareness and turn it into a lead? And then it's around about sales. How do you convert that lead into a customer? So there's a whole bunch of depth and details around sales. And then after that, once you've made a sale, you've obviously got to deliver. And so the quality of your delivery is really important. And ideally that delivery should not be involving you, because if your delivery is 100% dependent on you, then you've instantly capped your income earning potential, because there's only one of you and there's only 4 or 5 hours in a day that you can kind of like do your delivery, because you still got to run the business and everything else that it takes as well. So you're going to quickly reach a cap. Maybe it's like $200,000, $300,000, and then that's it, you're stuck. And so the only way to really grow beyond that is to actually build systems and then start to introduce other people into the business that can then do a lot of the delivery for you. And so then from there, it's all about leadership, attracting great people and all the things you need to do there. It's about team building, building a great team, hiring the right type of people to then execute, your plan and follow your systems. Obviously, you need to, part of that, have a great website as well. We talk a lot about that. We talk a lot about social media, talk a lot about how to manage your finances as well, risk management in terms of trademarking, protecting your assets, legal documents. We go through everything, and what makes our program really unique is we work on multiple areas of someone's business over a 12-month period, and so that way that they've got all their bases covered.
And this is really impressive, Dale, because it's the information that you give to your clients and that you share very freely in some other areas as well. It seems to be a lot of stuff that you've done, tried, tested, and tweaked yourself.
Yeah, I think, our business is like a little bit of a lab in terms of, we're constantly trying new things and pushing the boundaries and figuring stuff, what is the best way. And, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on marketing and testing stuff and even building new software. And then what we do is we then find what works and we teach it to our clients. And so it's just like, we might deliver something in 30 minutes, but it's probably taken us, 3 months and tens of thousands of dollars to get to that point. And, but that's my job. My job is to, how do I save people time and money? Well, I go out there, I figure out the best way, and then I teach it to the people, I help.
Which is phenomenal, Dale. And people listening or watching this might say, yeah, but Dale, what leg up in life did you get? What fancy university did you go to? Like, I bet you killed it at school. Like, what's the truth?
Truth is, I did, I did fairly well at school. I think I got like 85 out of 100. So it definitely wasn't like, a whiz kid or a super, genius, but I worked hard and got a decent sort of score. Then university just didn't really appeal to me, because I just never saw myself, becoming like a specialist in one thing. Like I, didn't want to just go, okay, I'm going to study, I don't know, dentistry for 5 or 6 years or whatever it is. So I decided that I wanted to, I knew I wanted to be successful, and I knew I wanted to make money, because I saw that was the way that I could, if you got more time and you got more money, you can make all of your goals and dreams happen. So I actually started doing some kind of like mindset, personal development, and then later on some sort of like wealth creation workshops. And I was all empowered with all of this kind of like knowledge. And I think I, probably grew up like 10 years within the space of, 6 months by doing all these courses and learning from amazing people, like Jim Rohn, who I saw, Brian Tracy a number of times as well, Brandon Bays, Zig Ziglar. We always saw Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki as well, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer. All of these are like amazing people that I kind of like learned from. And I just basically realized, my path was never going to be in a university. I wanted to follow my own path. And so, never went to university, but it's never held me back. Anything that I want to learn, I just learn it. There's, so much amazing content that's kind of out there now. I think university is great if you do want to follow a particular profession whereby having a degree is essential to working in that profession, fine, then great. And if my kids want to, to follow a particular path, like they want to become an engineer, great, go to university, because that's what you have to do. But if it's not your path, and then it just, it should be something that there's so many other ways to achieve goals these days, and heaps of other ways. And so many companies now, including the likes of Apple and Google, and now no longer requiring, used to be mandatory that the people that they hire had a university degree. Now they kind of realize the fact that you can earn if you got the desire and motivation, you can learn anything you want online, and having a piece of paper to prove it is like a bit of an old antiquated model.
Yeah, I agree with that pretty well wholeheartedly, Dale. And, not having an opportunity to go to university myself, I have had a university experience by playing cricket at Melbourne University and sort of being around the students. And I love that sort of Van Wilder lifestyle. But I remember sitting in a mate of mine's economics lecture, and my brain just about melted out my ears. So I totally understand that. And I think something that you might have sort of glossed over or not even really mentioned is that you grew up and you struggled with some pretty severe dyslexia by the sounds of it.
Yeah, so I had a lot of trouble reading, writing, and spelling, and in fact still do. But it hasn't stopped me from becoming a professional speaker, and also writing 19 books as well that I have now published. So yeah, I think that I definitely did have some challenges, but now, with regards to spell check and having a good team around you and editors and stuff like that, like I could always communicate, and I could always, share stuff, but just putting it down, on paper and making sure that, the I was before the E except after C and all of that stuff, that's something that, thankfully now technology can kind of can fix. And even like reading emails and things like that, most of the time I click a button now on my computer and the computer just reads me my emails. I don't even kind of read it anymore because, oftentimes the words kind of jump around the page a little bit. So to be honest, it just does not affect me at all now. I've got workarounds for kind of everything. So yeah, whatever your, weakness is, then just don't focus on it and just find ways to make things work.
Well, it's a good lesson and no excuses really. And, I think maybe that your career as a in the gymnastics or the, that discipline, do you think that's had a profound impact on how you go about your life these days?
Without doubt, there's so many amazing lessons that I learned from my sporting career. I started when I was 6 years of age and competed up until 18. And so I learned a lot of things from my sporting career. Hard work, of course, how to be disciplined, developing the right kind of habits, consistency, learn about how to motivate myself, delayed gratification, just so many life skills. And of course, the value of having a coach. And so I just have now applied those principles that I learned from my sporting career to other aspects of my life, and realized the fact that, success principles are the same sort of no matter where you find them. And so they're highly kind of transferable to, to the world of business, in my example, or any kind of field of endeavor. So, that's kind of what I've done.
Dale, I've been to about 20 countries in my life, and I'm relatively well traveled compared to most people I know. You've hit 85, and I'm curious to know what visiting 85 countries over the course of your life, what it does to you in terms of your impression of how human beings are and behave.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I have learned is that, don't believe the news in terms of how certain countries are portrayed. The people are very different, in fact, very warm and friendly. And, I've met so many Russians, and I'm kind of like, I'm expecting them to be, really rude and kind of like, but they've been warm and friendly and just like, it's been amazing. But I'm like, you're not like when I grew up watching Drago, in Rocky 3, Rocky 4, I think it was, and seeing that all Russians are like that. And then like even more recently being to like China's getting a bashing in the media as well. But I can remember going to China last year and just like dancing with like old ladies in the street, and they were so happy and out doing Tai Chi and things like that in the park. It was just they're playing music and so what I've learned is that humanity is beautiful. In like 99% of cases, people around the world are just just beautiful people that just want to be on this earth and have fun and so and very kind and hospitable. And so that's one thing that I've learned. The other thing is that oftentimes that the people that have, this is a whole kind of paradox, but the people that have the most are the most unhappy. And sometimes the people that have the least, are happy. So I've been spending a lot of time in Egypt as well. And Egypt is still a very, poor country once you get out of, a couple of the big cities, but a lot of the people are so happy. And that's kind of a real lesson for kind of like, all of us as well, to sort of, and almost like, yeah, a little bit of the curse of wealth and success is you go to places like America and, there's many people that are making millions of dollars and have lots of flashy things, and they're way more unhappy than, for example, people living in Egypt or South Africa. And so that's constantly, bears on my mind as well, to make sure that I, remain grateful for what I have and continue to, because otherwise you just get into this thing of comparing yourself to others constantly. And one of the things that I remember hearing is, comparison is the biggest killer of happiness. When you compare your kind of what you have or what you think you don't have with other people, that can just make you miserable. And going through social media feeds these days, and everyone's life looks amazing, and it's kind of like you start to go, oh, what's wrong with me? And I'm not good enough, and I'm failing, and I'm a loser, and blah blah blah. The truth is that you are probably richer than 99% of the planet, and you're unhappy and you're ungrateful. So yeah, it's taught me a lot of stuff, and I love visiting new places, learning about history, learning about culture, different cultures, different religions as well, and spending time in like Turkey and Jordan and seeing the different and meeting people again that are being portrayed in the media as being terrorists and things like that, and going and seeing the people and like these are just real people that just that just want to have a good life. And sadly the 0.001% of people can completely destroy an entire faith of more than 1 billion people, which is Islam, just because of a handful of people that are evil. That happens in kind of like every religion, or every faith has its bad eggs. So learn a lot, and I love travel and just opening up my kind of mind to new ideas and possibilities.
Well, given that response, Dale, if you were the Minister for Education in this country, what are some of the things that you would bring in to improve some of the things that you were talking about, international relations, etc.?
Well, I would definitely be encouraged, like having a whole sort of like subject on global. I haven't got a title for it, but whether it's not global affairs, but kind of like just even global appreciation. I know we studied geography, great. Where are things on a map? Yeah, that's great. And some schools may study certain cultures or history, which is fine. But the world is kind of like, is really shrinking now. And it would be great if there was a subject where you could know how to greet someone who was a Muslim, or to be able to, say hello to someone in India, or, and be able to really, you could converse with, I don't mean necessarily the language, but you'd have an understanding and appreciation of cultural respect and understanding of all major kind of like cultures and religions and places around the world. I think that would be really cool. I definitely think there should be a much stronger focus on financial education in our education system, because a lot of young people that don't know what was an index fund, what's an EFT, what is how does a loan actually work, and understanding about just the basics of of investing and compound interest, and being being smart with their money and getting started young, because the sooner you can start when it comes to wealth building, the more time you've got, the more money you've got in the market, then the more your compounding will kind of grow. And so I just look at the amount of time that I spent in school on so many sort of like subjects, like maths, and I know that it has a place, and certain basic maths is definitely important. But everything you learn after kind of year 8, you end up, unless you're working in engineering, or you're working in maybe high level computer program, like 99% of the people that go through school don't need that level of detail and information, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that isn't taught. So I think just reprioritizing where we put our time in terms of educating young people, and also equipping them with life skills as well. Helping them with regards to emotional intelligence is really important now. You see so many young people unhappy and suffering from depression and things like that at a much younger age now. We definitely need to be equipping them for skills around how to understand and manage their emotions, and how to kind of like clear and negative beliefs, and whether that's being teaching them mindfulness and meditation. There's a whole bunch of things that I definitely think that we can upgrade our education system to be kind of fit for the future, which I really believe should happen.
Yeah, well, it's a great idea, and I think even something as simple as putting every child through a Tony Robbins course, at some point would have a profound effect, because a lot of the books that you were talking about earlier, that you were reading earlier in your career, in your life, I've read a lot of them as well, and they talk about like a holistic approach to life. And for me, going through my own journey, like going through health, addiction, business, financial, like I've had to unlearn and relearn a whole shitload of stuff that I just picked up because nothing else was available growing up. Whereas if I'd had some of that influence that you're talking about from Jim Rohn and people like Zig Ziglar, who just have the most extraordinary life lessons, and most of it's out there for free. So I'm a huge proponent of getting in early. I don't know how we go about doing it, but I think sending this message around will only help. And I feel sorry for kids going to school these days. Not that they're even going to school at the moment because of what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. I definitely think that we need a bit of a shake-up in the education system for sure.
Speaking of what's happening now, Dale, with regards to, we're down in Melbourne, you're up in Sydney at the moment, Sydney, Australia, things are relatively relaxed at the moment compared to us. What are some helpful hints for people that have had to pivot and might have lost their job, that now need to go online and to focus on a career? Where do you start?
Yeah, well, first thing is, it's never been easier to transition your knowledge and skills like today. The amount of online courses that there are, even these things called nano degrees, within 6 months you can get equivalent training from a university degree that in many companies now recognizing this thing called nano degrees, and they're a fraction of the cost. Some of them are even just a couple of $100, and you can spend 3 to 6 months getting a university level kind of like qualifications around certain kind of key subjects. So it's never been easier. It just comes down to really asking yourself, the question, like two things, like what do you love? What do you love is got to be part of it. Otherwise, you just won't stick at it long enough to get good at it. And then what's the market demand? What are the industries that are going to boom in the next 5 to 10 years? And you're going to go online and you can just try high growth industries, and you'll see that there is hundreds of different not hundreds but dozens of kind of industries that are going to be doing extremely well over the next few years. And if you can kind of like jump onto a fast moving train and learn about what you need to succeed in that particular field, then then you can absolutely transition into something else that will be more meaningful and hopefully recession proof as well.
What are some of the obvious trends that you can reel off the top of your head, Dale?
Yeah, so there are lots of them, but one of them is definitely in kind of like aged care. And we look at the biggest demographic, the baby boomers, starting to, in their 60s and even 70s as well. But thanks to modern medicine and technology, a lot of them are going to be living to much longer, like living the longest that they ever have in history. And so therefore this is a demographic that's kind of cashed up, but they also want to preserve their health. So things around, health care for baby boomers is going to do really well, but also things that could be maybe not right now doing sort of like travel, but any other types of programs or that you can put together for that particular target market is going to do really well. Another thing, of course, is anything around sort of property and construction. Like at the end of the day, Australia's population will double, within the next 40 years. And so we'll go from, a country of around 25 million to upwards of 40 million people, over the next couple of decades. And so, think about how big Sydney is and think about how it'll basically double. And part of it will be, so every kind of like block that's more than 1,000 square meters will probably cut in two, and a house be on the back as well. And so there's huge amounts of wealth that are going to be made because it's going to be sort of like, we don't need these huge backyards anymore. Most places have a park, within 2 or 3 minutes walk anyway. And a lot of kids are spending more time, indoors on, computers and other things, as opposed to, playing in the backyard. And then, of course, as we kind of start to expand into other areas as well, so there's definitely going to be a huge opportunity there. And then there's obviously things around, not right now, but things around adventure and travel as well, and creating experiences for people. People are becoming more cashed up, and oftentimes they've got the house and they've got the car, but then they want to create more meaningful experiences as well. So whether you're putting together like a group of guys that maybe do tours where you could ride motorbikes around Tasmania, or you might go let's kind of do a some type of outback experience for people, or let's take kind of like families on these camping trips. And if you could organize these experiences for people as well, people are starting to value experiences a lot more as well. Then you've got other things that are like blockchain and medical and all that stuff, which is not kind of really my space, but there's obviously huge opportunity there. Software development and is another huge one as well, as we embrace the power of technology more in our businesses and lives. So there's huge opportunity there as well.
As a speaker, Dale, do you think there's a real importance that needs to be placed on the art of being able to communicate properly?
Of course, yeah. I think communication is super important, always has been, always will be. Leadership is now more important than ever as well. And so, the people that achieve the most amount of success in careers and also in businesses as well are normally people that have developed their leadership skills as well. So that definitely always helps as well.
Yeah, I've been running these the 7 secrets of small talk webinars. I just started releasing them online in the last couple of weeks, and I've run 2 already. And it's really fascinating. It's a skill that I really took for granted, and
Yeah.
realized that there's a whole, and it's not to focus on introverts, because there's nothing wrong with being an introverted personality type, but the benefits that I've gotten from being able to strike up a conversation with a random person has changed my
Yeah.
life. It's how I met my mentor. It's how I met my fiance, who's a Russian, by the way, and is probably the most
Yeah.
beautiful person you'll ever meet. And another mentor who's become a financial mentor, a very successful guy. And none of these would have happened if I hadn't just, hey, how you going? And another thing that ties in with what you were saying before, Dale, is that gratitude. When people ask me how I am back, I'll quite often say I'm blessed. And it sounds a bit, wishy-washy, or a bit spiritual, whatever. But like most times people say, oh, you're blessed. How are you blessed? And then I'll say things like food in my belly, clothes on my back, roof over my head, the love of a beautiful woman. And and that seems to have a really profound effect on. There's a free one for people listening now. But in
Mm.
terms of gratitude and giving back, I know you've been involved with a lot of charitable stuff like all of your life. Um, Hands across the water.
Yeah.
I had the hands across the water. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah. So about 7 years ago, my wife and I were wanting to basically um, do something else with our time and money, and we wanted to start making a bigger impact globally. And so we I interviewed a few years before that somebody in one of my books, a man called Peter Baines, that started this charity called Hands Across the Water. And he was originally a forensic scientist and was one of the first people the Australian government sent to the Bali bombings, also to Thailand after the Boxing Day tsunami, to Japan after the tsunami there as well. And so he set up this charity, Australian charity, but it does work in Thailand, and it builds homes for underprivileged children there. And originally it was many people that have actually lost their parents through the tsunami, and were orphans, and so they set up a home there and started to clothe and feed and provide education to hundreds of young people. And so it's now grown, and there's now 7 centers that they now are supporting. So every single year we participate in a charity event, which is a bike ride through Thailand. I normally take a group of about 50 to 60 entrepreneurs with me, and we ride, and we also visit a number of the different homes in Thailand, and it's just an amazing experience. So over the last 7 years, we've now raised more than $2 million for Hands Across the Water, which is great. And
Wow.
we're going to continue to support them and other causes that we are passionate about as well.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, Dale. And congratulations on that, by the way. That's massive. And are you talking about push bike cycling or
Yes,
motorbike
that's
riding?
right. Push bike
You're on a push
cycling.
bike from top to toe. It's a long way. It's a long way.
Yeah. We rode about 800 kilometers over there. So it's about 8 days riding, and it's pretty amazing.
That's brilliant. Well, maybe one day I'd love to tag along. I used to live in Bangkok when I was a 20-year-old. I was there for 6 months, and it was an
There you go.
experience, but I never got to see any of the beaches or really outside of
Yeah, right.
Bangkok, because when I resigned, they put me on the next plane out there. So
Yeah.
it was an amazing experience. So
What business were you working in?
for a relocation company for crown removals, and I
Okay.
got hired sight unseen. I knew nothing about it, and I entered the country, and the company, just as a cartel that they had running, collapsed. So they'd been price fixing for years and years, and it all collapsed. And they used to incorporate the bribe amounts into the quotes, like it was that obvious, right? It was just how they operated over there, and like I'd never lived out of Christchurch, New Zealand at that point. I knew nothing about Thailand apart from it was hot and HIV. Like that's how insular my thinking. There was no internet back then either. So, but I loved it, and it ties in with what you're saying, that those overseas experiences are so important to get a feel for what it's actually like in other parts of the world. I've been to China as well, been to about 5 places there, and experienced the similar stuff. You know, you're treated like a rock star over there, just because of your skin color, I think. So
Mm.
it's really amazing. Dale, I'm very conscious you are an incredibly productive and busy man. I underestimated the number of books that you'd put out because you've
That's all
probably
right.
written another 2 or 3 since you had it on your LinkedIn profile, for God's sake. Um,
Yeah.
one sort of thing before we go, you interviewed uh, hundreds of 240 of these, some of the most successful people on the globe. Who were some of your favorites?
Wow, people interviewed. Yeah, I was a successful entrepreneur who's been like a mentor for me, a guy called Simon Reynolds, who was in one of my books, amazing guy. Also, another guy called Justin Herold as well, who's now a close friend, and he's been awesome to work with and learn from. I've also interviewed some amazing female entrepreneurs in many of my books as well. Susie Daphnis comes to mind, Christina Clarkson as well from Kiki K, and some other really kind of just incredible people. So yeah, there's quite a few of them, and you can go onto my website if you want and check out some of the people and the books.
Well, all this will be linked below, so you can get in there, and I encourage you to get amongst Dale's amazing publications, because some of them are just, I haven't gotten through all of them, but they're extraordinary. And Dale, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a million and other things that we could talk about, but I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. You are a busy guy. You hand out so much amazing free content. For those that want to find you, how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, just probably go to my personal website, dalebeaumont.com is where to go. And then once you are there, if you scroll down, there's links to my events that I run. I run an event called 52 Ways, because I teach 52 different strategies to grow any business. So that is now an amazing event that you can tap into from anywhere in Australia or anywhere around the world. So you can check that out. There's also links to Business Blueprint, which is a program that we run as well. I've got some other technology products like BizVersity and MobiMag. And so, yeah, the best thing to do is to go to the website and start there.
Fantastic, Dale. Before we go, anything you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
No, this has been great chatting, and we encourage people to continue to listen to all of your episodes, and become the superhero, basically it's the best person that you can be, and inspire others.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dale Beaumont.